What does it take for a man to find his path? My guest today, William Walker, has a fascinating answer. His own journey took him from the discipline of a Marine to the creativity of a professional kitchen, all before a single event changed his trajectory. Now he helps men navigate their own trails. William, it's an honor to have you today. Welcome to the Sermon for One podcast.
Hey, thank you, Jonathan. I really appreciate just you inviting me to be a part of this. It's been cool to honestly have you part of this whole journey. I mean, because you've been a part of it as much as God has been a part of it for me, and but you've played a key role in kind of helping me define some things and put some things together. So thank you for just this opportunity to get on a podcast with you and chat, man.
Absolutely. It's been an honor. It's been a privilege. My entire team loves the whole interaction. They love the what you stand for. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on the podcast. Actually, we're supposed to have this like you were supposed to be my first episode, but then you went to a Kenya trip, and and that's one of the reasons I need to get William here because we need to talk about that. So that was a short intro, William, and it doesn't do you justice. So we'd like to introduce yourself and what you're currently doing, and some of your colorful, different hats that you had in the past.
Yeah. Hey, so obviously, my name is William Walker. I have a coaching and consulting firm or company, and I do executive coaching or really performance-based coaching to help men become the leaders that we're called to be. Really, to become the man that God created us to be. That's where my heart is. That's where my passion is. Um, and it's been a journey for me to unpack and figure that out. And that's really what I try to do now is to help men walk that journey out, right? To understand how do you take your past, your experiences, your wins, your losses, your goods, your bads, um, and, and and turn that into the lens that you use to go, hey man, I was made for more, right? I am set apart. Um, and start to put that into a frame that allows you to go, hey, this is why I was put on this earth, right? It's not about the roles we get to play. It's about so much more than that. And yeah, it has been a journey, like you said at the beginning of this. I'm a classically trained chef. I'm a former Marine. I've got 10 years where I worked in higher education and did project management. And now here I am as an executive coach, entrepreneur, starting my own business. I'm also a husband and a father of three amazing sons. All of them have grown, and I have survived them, or they have survived me. One of the two. Just we're still figuring that out, because but they're 32, 28, and 23, so they're all grown. They're out of the house, um, and just doing amazing things with their lives. Very very happy for them. Proud of them. And then I have an amazing wife who is she is my CFO, as well as she serves as the CFO for a local nonprofit organization that I work with. Um, so yeah, that's a little bit of my background. That's the real high short story of it. We can get into more of that and as we kind of navigate through this conversation. But yeah, that's
Yeah,
that's that's the highs and the lows of it.
that's an amazing journey, right? And I'm going to be a father of four, so I'm looking forward also to maybe if you have any insights in how to survive and how to allow them to survive as well. Would be a good thing to come up with. Part of the sermon for one is that I always ask my guests, what is your sermon for one at the moment? What is
Mm.
there a passage? Is there a verse? Is there something that is very close to your heart at the moment that you normally are talking to yourself first, and then you'd like to share with other people?
Yeah, it's funny when you asked me that question a couple days ago. I've been praying and thinking about it a lot. Just kind of like, well, what is that? I have all these different verses that mean so much to me and have played a massive role in my life over the years, right? But then I got up this morning. Hold on, let me grab my trusty journal here, right, where I got it written down. And I got up this morning and I read this verse out of Amos, right? Right?
Oh wow, Amos.
Who goes to
we're, go-
Amos, right?
we're going very deep now.
Right? Who goes there? This says, "Let justice roll on like a river, and righteousness like a never failing stream." And as I was really kind of leaning into that this morning, I felt God, some of the things I wrote down was, God doesn't want us to merely say we care about things like justice and righteousness. He wants us to show that with our actions. And for me, this this idea of what is the injustice that I feel that God's put on my heart to address, right? I am not here to empower and fix the whole world, right? And most of
Mhm,
us on this don't, like, if you believe you're here to fix the whole world, I got some news for you. You're not, right?
mhm,
But you do have a space inside of you that's unique for you, based on the life experiences and your skills and the things you're passionate about, that's going to allow you to live that out, right? um and so, I just, justice is to actively seek the well-being of the vulnerable and correcting injustice. And I love that because, you know as a follower of Jesus, we are called, and even before Jesus, when it was the Israelites, like, there were three things that God just wanted them to do, which was to take care of the orphan, the widow, and the outsider.
mhm,
Right? They were created as or he made them a tribe of judges, a tribe of priests, excuse me, and
mhm,
set them apart, and actually set them at a place in the world where Israel is now, at the crossroads, like the crossroads of the world intersect there. And he did that so that they could take care of the orphan, the widow. They could be living a life that's set apart. And that's where righteousness is in right standing with God, of encompassing both a right relationship with Him, but also righteous behavior. You know, our heart aligned with His will and character is what I was thinking there. And for me, that's been the big prayer, especially coming back off of Kenya, has been, how do I come alongside these men that I'm working with in Kenya? How do I come alongside the
mhm,
men that I'm working with here in America, right? And help them navigate the injustice that's been done to them, right? And I'm not saying that's the government, I'm not saying any of that.
mhm,
But there is a societal injustice that's happening to a lot of men. And it's, believe it or not, that stems from the very beginning in Genesis, where Adam didn't step up and do what he was supposed to do when Eve was
mhm,
tempted. He didn't step up and go, "Hey, you know what, Eve, that's not good. Let's not do that." He just stood idly by and did nothing, and then stepped into it, and then he blamed her, right? And what came alive inside of us as men at that moment was this question that every man I know wrestles with, which is, do I have what it takes? And that's the injustice that we live with, because we do. When we know who our identity is in, when we know that we are, my identity is formed in my heavenly Father, that He says who I am, and it says it over and over throughout the Bible, who I am as a man and as a husband and as a father and as a leader. Um, it is an injustice when we don't believe that about ourselves. And there's too many of us out there living in that space of just not knowing what it's like. I know, and I remember what it's like. Like, for me, it's what breaks my heart is is remembering what it's like. And even to this day, getting up, there are many mornings I get up and I look in the mirror and I'm like, man, what am I doing? I can't do this. Like, I'll come in here and I'll look at my goals on my whiteboard and I'm like, oh my God, what I just go get a job. And then I remember and I think about some of the stories. I'm like, all right, maybe I can do this. Or I'll call one of my friends and I'm like, hey, bro, I need to go for a run. Or, hey, man, can you come over and work out? And I'll share this with him, right? He's like, William, bro, you got this. You can. And, obviously, I always take it to my heavenly Father when I'm having those moments, as well as, like, all right, hey, God, like, I need you. Um, just I
It's
need.
it's interesting you say that because um earlier today, my yesterday, actually, or earlier today, somebody actually reached out to me and wanted to ask me a question about something that relates to what you just said. When I look at that verse and I look what you just said, it's a little bit easier for us to strive for justice and to be just and to try to uphold God's righteousness in our lives. It's easy for us, but it's difficult when the injustice is done towards us,
Hmm.
right? And that person asked me. I know that this episode is going to be go live in a couple of weeks, but I'll probably just send her a copy of the video ahead of time. But she asked a question that sort of relates to that is about forgiveness. Most likely, what when you talk about the injustice done to men, or the injustice that we experience, one of the first steps is to understanding forgiveness. In one in shape or form, there has to be some sort of forgiveness. Is that something that is part of the plan that you have, or the philosophy that you have in terms of addressing the injustices that are done to us, not necessarily just men, but but injustice, and how does forgiveness sort of play a role in that, and how do we forgive? In my reply, I wrote a very long message, and I said, "Oh, I need somebody that knows more about forgiveness." And then you come up with that verse, and I find it very interesting and timely for that. So, how does forgiveness play a role in in that?
So the forgiveness, honestly, is our willingness to allow ourselves to be forgiven.
Mm,
The reason we carry things is not because God hadn't forgiven us. It's
yeah.
because we haven't forgiven ourselves. We haven't accepted what He's given to us free. Actually, it's not free. I mean, it's free to us now, but only because He paid a price. Like He
Hmm.
crawled up on a cross, He died, He bled, He shed His blood, He did what He had to do so that we can have forgiveness. Right now, I'm and and that's just it. Like I have to be willing to forgive myself for the mistakes that I've made and the choices I've made, because it's only in those mistakes that I made that I look at myself and go, well, no wonder I can't do it. Look at us. Look where I screwed up before. This is why I'm not worth anything, because look what I've done. Look, woe is me. Well, and great. But how about you reframe that? How about you go, man, and it's not easy all the time to reframe that, but every single thing that happens in our life is all about becoming the person God wants us to become. Like it says, and I think it's in Isaiah, I always get it confused, but it says, I knew you when you were formed in your mother's womb. Right? That's a future statement. That's not who I am right now when I look in the mirror. That's God looking down at me going, I know who you're going to become when you're 92 years old and you get
Hmm.
to die and come to heaven. Like I know who that person is. So everything that happens in our life, good, bad, everything is all about us becoming that person. The question is, do you want to become that person? Or do you want to become the other person? Like we have a choice. Like that's also the beauty of this relationship, or this of what Jesus offers, is the fact that tomorrow I can wake up and say, hey, I'm a Buddhist. I get a choice. Like I have free choice to love him or to not love him.
Hmm.
And that choice is so powerful. That's the freedom we get. And that's
Yeah,
where that freedom for our past and and the forgiveness that we need. And if it's forgiveness for somebody else, hey man, you got to still let that go.
yeah,
You can't carry that,
yeah.
because all it is sorry, go ahead.
No, I told the person, the first thing is the forgiveness is not about the other person. Is It's a lot about you, because that person does not know if they're forgiven or not. That's something that you keep in your heart, and it just gets uglier and uglier if you keep that inside of you. And I like the point that you make, that you have to forgive yourself, because as I was speaking to that person, I told that person that, hey, that one of the reasons why we were unable to forgive is because we want to know the why. Why was this injustice done to me? Did I do something wrong? And that's normally where it goes, and we keep on looking at ourselves, and not every time. actually probably never do we really get the answer as to why the injustice was done to us. Even we ask the culprit, right? Unless it's in the court of law with evidence, we won't be able to find out what the actual motive is. Go to that person, hey, why did you do this to me, right? But yeah, so that's an amazing passage and amazing insight, and it's very, very timely. So I'm thankful for that. So you talk a lot about men and how they can become the men that they're meant to be. They've been uh, ordained to be to a certain level that God has already sort of knows what their potential is, and how to achieve that. Um, what would you say is, because I know the landscape right now, and we've talked about this multiple times, that the landscape right now, societal landscape that we're in, is very against men, and we are sort of being asked to be lesser than what we are, uh, so that we can fit in society for a lot of. Is that Does that sort of resonate with you, or does that is something that you're seeing as well?
I mean, I do. You do see some of that.
Mhm.
I think you're starting to see a change in some of that.
Mhm.
Um, and I think it's just because I will. I think it's just because there were people out there who didn't know who they were supposed. They didn't know who they were. They weren't connecting with their true identity of their creator, right?
Yeah.
And even when they, I don't want to say this. I want to be careful how I say this, but I
It
don't
could
want to
go
say you
viral,
don't need
so
it.
it could be good.
Well,
It could be
I don't
good.
want you. I don't want you to think that your relationship with Jesus is not important. But there's a lot of people out there that understand, hey, I need to take time to get quiet and let myself reflect so that I can become the best version of me, right? I
Mhm.
need to take time to understand that I need to take care of my body physically, mentally, spiritually. And spiritually, for some people, doesn't always mean that they worship Jesus. Now, do I wish they were? Absolutely, right? But they're taking the time. And now, if they are doing that, guess what? They're going to be a lot more open to the opportunity of sharing Jesus with you, right?
Mhm.
You look at America, you look around America right now, and there are all these different people, like Joe Rogan's a big one, right?
Yep.
Where people were talking that everybody's like, oh my God, he goes to church all the time now. And he's reading the Bible on a regular basis. And so, like, what's going on in his life? Well, you know what's going on in his life? Is Joe Rogan understood prior to that he needed to take time to work on his mental, physical, and spiritual being. And for him, at the beginning of that, spiritual just meant taking time to reflect and get quiet, right? And guess what?
Mhm.
When we get quiet, guess who starts talking to us? Those
Yep.
seeds that got planted by somebody else, they start growing because Joe's not focused on these other things in life, these other things, right? He's going, man, I know what I need to do to be the best version of me or the best human being. And when you start doing that, like I'm telling you, things start changing inside you. And that opportunity just gives somebody like me or other people that I know that are sharing God's word with people or just living a life that's set apart, like we're called to be, um, to plant that seed and maybe even water it a little bit.
Mhm.
And next thing you know, it's growing. And next thing you know, the person's going, hey, man, can I go to church with you on Sunday? I mean, for me, my coaching career started off after I ran a Spartan race. I ran a five and a
Mhm.
half mile obstacle course race with a guy I was training with. He was my personal trainer. And that led to me going, hey, what does it look like for me to lead a Bible study group that trains for Spartan races? And then we talk about Jesus. And all of a sudden, I could invite anybody I wanted to this group. Be like, hey guys, I train. I got a group of guys. We train for Spartan races, and then we talk about Jesus afterwards. And they're like, oh, I'm in for that. Like they weren't worried that we talked about Jesus. They were all about running the Spartan race, which was great.
Mhm.
But we had this opportunity because when you're running, sometimes you're able to get quiet in your brain. You're you're doing hard things together. You start building trust and bond, and all these things start happening. And next thing you know, like your brains open up to the idea that hey, there's something bigger out there. There is
Mhm.
something more for me, and now I get to share it with you.
It's interesting to have that sort of to use that as your foot inside the door for that to open up with that conversation. and people have all of that, and that's sort of the thing that we train. For example, Bible school. So I come from I'm a pastor by profession, uh, and we always talk when evangelizing that you have to build rapport in one way or another,
Hmm.
right? And but the way that you're building rapport is through physical exercise, through discipline and things like that. Do you and you're incorporating that into your coaching, right?
Sometimes I try. I mean, I try to. I've got clients that I've got one client in particular that every time we meet, we don't meet over Zoom. He's like, "Hey, man," and he'll put it on my calendar, or I'll put it on his calendar, and we'll meet at the local hiking trail, and we'll go for like a 3 to 4 mile hike. We'll put 20, 30 pounds on our back, and it's just a great conversation the whole time. We're just walking through the woods, right? It's beautiful outside, even when it's hot. It's shaded, so it's just this awesome day. Um, but it's not really about the physical. It was about meeting them where they needed to be met.
Mhm. Mhm.
Right. I was taught when I was in Kenya. One of the conversations we had with the group of guys that I was working with, he was like, "Hey, William, how do I meet somebody? How do I help? How do I help a guy who drinks?" And I'm like, "Well, there's nothing wrong with drinking, right? God doesn't say, hey, having a beer is a sin. What he says is drunkenness is a sin, right?
Drunk,
Because
yeah,
he knows
becoming
that
drunk.
we lose our inhibitions and we stop thinking properly. We our ability to make decisions and do things, right? And some people are probably not going to like that, and I'm okay with that. I don't drink, and the only reason I don't drink, well, I think I had some beer when I was in Kenya, but in the states I don't drink at all. And I just don't because I don't like the way it makes me feel the next day. Even if I have one
Mhm.
beer, I wake up in the morning, my brain's not clear. I can't work out as well. My work day is not as focused as I want it to be. So I just was like, there's no real benefit. So just stop. And I did.
Yeah.
Um, but I told the guy, I was like, man, if that guy wants to have a beer, then go with him. You don't have to have one. Go sit with him. And he's like, but what happens if my church judges me for sitting down with this guy who's having a beer? I said, then you have a problem with your church. Because if that guy wants to drink, that's his choice and it's okay, right? Jesus ate with sinners. Jesus sat down and ate with tax collectors and prostitutes. And I'm not
Oh,
better than Jesus, right?
yeah, yeah,
So I
and it's just a little bit difficult, I think, having to explain things. I think um having to explain things, especially now in the age that we are, where information and pictures can do the rounds so much quicker, and it's harder to explain. So I sort of understand where that person is coming from. So um and it would be much easier to explain if you were sitting down with somebody who was drinking,
Mhm.
and when sitting down with a prostitute, or in the red lantern area of your red
Yeah,
district.
I'm not
But
saying
yeah.
go hang out with a bunch of
I
prostitutes,
know,
but
I know, I know.
I'm also saying, hey, if that's who God has put on your heart,
Correct. Yeah.
right? You have to answer into that, man. Like I don't remember where it was. I read something somewhere, and it was about this pastor's wife, right? And this guy had his church. I think it was a pastor's wife, and she used to be a stripper,
Hmm.
right? And it was on her heart, like God just burdened her heart. I got a plaque up here. It says, "Break my heart for what breaks yours," and I pray it
Hmm.
every day. Break my heart, God, for what breaks yours. Um, and it just broke her heart that these women were living in this place. And so, guess what she would do? She would go spend time with them inside the strip club,
Hmm.
right? And why? Because that's where she was at.
Right.
She didn't need to go there. She wasn't. We're not meant to be the judge and the jury. We're meant to love. It doesn't mean that It doesn't mean that I just let you. But true love is 100% truth and 100% grace. It's the
Hmm.
one thing we don't necessarily do well as humans, but Jesus did perfectly.
Yeah.
100% truth and 100% grace. Because if you don't have 100% of both, it either hurts. It hurts both ways. Truth with no grace is just painful. It's like getting hit with a stick.
Yep.
But grace without truth is me just going, well, you just doesn't matter. You just go ahead, go down, and do what you want.
When
You die, or you live, whatever.
when sharing the gospel, I think that we have like a slight advantage in certain aspects than Jesus had when he was here, because we are sinners, right? So just like the example of the stripper who had now access and experience that she could go back to people that were still living the life that she lived, and
Hmm.
that's an entry point for them to be able to have that conversation. Same way, perhaps, if somebody finds out that you're an ex-marine, right, and they were in the military as well, that's like an obvious connection
Hmm.
where, because of that lived experience, you're able to converse with one another a little bit more openly. Or if you meet somebody that's in the food industry, that's an automatic thing. I think that
Hmm.
that sin that we had in the past, we have to repent from it, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we try to shy and hide from it, because
Hmm.
that experience is something that somebody's going to benefit from, and the gospel might benefit from that entry point that
Yeah,
you could have.
100%. I mean, so in my coaching, one of the things I love to do is, and I always do it is I work with people and kind of go, hey, what are your core values, right? What are those
Hmm.
things, those guardrails in your life that help you make your decisions? It's the filter, it's the lens, it's all of those things, right? And for me, one of mine is humble. And for
Hmm.
most people, they would think, well, humble is like this humility. I'm down on my knee. Woe is me. But humble is actually being humble, or humility is all about remembering.
Hmm.
And so I define that. When I define that, I define it as, I always want to remember where I came from and what I've come through to get to where I'm at. Because if I remember what God's done in my past and where I came from and what I came through, I'm going to have empathy and compassion for the people I interact with.
Hmm.
Because I'm going to go like, man, I know what it's like to not talk to your dad for 10 years.
Hmm.
I know what it's like to navigate through abuse. I know what it's like to 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 look in the mirror most mornings, most days for years of my life and go, you're just worthless. No one cares about you. I don't ever want to forget that, but I don't forget I don't ever want to forget it, because I always want to have empathy and compassion for the people that God brings into my life.
Hmm.
It is
I
it Go ahead.
Yeah, you can continue, go ahead. What I used to teach, I used to be a tech trainer for Netgear and D-Link. So, networking device like routers, modems, and things like that. And during the training, it's like a 60-day training period, and we get people that know nothing. Some people never touch the computer, and you have to start teaching them to become like tech engineers for customer support. So it was an extreme challenge. But as things got more difficult,
Are you
we would
saying I'm a
always
challenge?
we're not going to training, but it's hard. It's hard because here in the Philippines, especially like 15 years ago when I was doing that, there people did not have internet at home. So the whole concept of modems and Wi-Fi, nobody really had that understanding at the time. And um, as things were getting more difficult, um, a lot of people, we would always get to a point in the training where they start doubting themselves if they'll be able to do the job.
Mhm,
They would start asking questions like, is there a more easier account that they can be assigned to instead of the tech support? And one of the things that I always told them is, now let's stop now, and then let me ask you a couple of questions. And I would ask like basic questions that everybody already knew by that point, right? And I would ask, 15 days ago, did you know this? Go back 15 days, and then go back 15 days and try to remember what you knew at the time when you started this whole journey
mhm,
to learn. Because we have like, we keep looking forward and keep forgetting things.
mhm,
We keep looking forward and forgetting things. So what you said about remembering is extremely important, because you have to be, uh the humility or being humble is about remembering, so that
mhm,
you can also be proud of the things that you've accomplished already. It's sort of like the David argument versus Goliath, right? He looks at the problem ahead of him, and he wasn't being boastful because he can take on Goliath. He said, no, I got beat up by bears, lions, and all of those things until I conquered them.
Yep.
Now I know that I can deal with this. And that roadmap in training was always towards the 15th day, and I already knew, okay, I'm going to introduce like a network attached storage device, and we're going to talk about uploading and downloading things from the internet and all the IP cameras connected. And I said, yeah, they're going to get stuck here. I need to remind them, do the whole Hakuna Matata, or the whole scene from Lion King where
Remember
Mufasa
who
is,
you are.
remember who you are.
That's
So,
exactly right, man.
and you mentioned that you I remember you on one of our calls you said, uh, um, you talked about Simba, you talk about Hakuna
Mhm.
Matata, and I said, oh man, I'm gonna click very well with this person right now.
And it's funny, if you look in the Bible and you read all the stories in the Old Testament, and even if you get into the New Testament, every time you see Israel falling
Hmm.
under, somebody getting conquered by some other country, it's if you go to the beginning of that story, it's God going, "Hey, you forgot who you are. You forgot what I made you to do. You forgot who you were supposed to be."
Yeah.
And they were all focused on them. They forgot
Hmm.
that they were brought together to be a kingdom of priests, that they were brought together to be set apart. They forgot that God is the one that carried them out of Egypt, right? Not
Yeah.
themselves,
Yeah.
right? All that is it's every time we start forgetting where we came from and what we came through to get to where we're at, whether you believe in God or not, you're going to get lost
Yeah.
and you're going to realize it's just life's not good. It's just not a good place to be.
Yeah. The book of Judges is that vicious cycle, right?
Oh, it's
They,
100,
it,
just it's it
yeah.
every time, nonstop.
It's so fun to read the book because there's a verse that keeps on repeating itself, that
Mhm,
Israel, they got a judge, put them into place. Now they're okay. And then all of a sudden they forget,
mhm,
right? All of a sudden they forget and they go their own ways and start worshiping other gods. And then God comes in, the Midianites or whoever comes, the Assyrians, they come and conquer them, and then they cry for help again. And then
yeah,
a judge is given. And it's just that vicious cycle for the entire book of Judges. It's a good reminder for us, because, and I think, us being humans, I think sometimes we can stave off some of
mhm,
those iterations from happening, right? But in my personal life, for example, I try to be extremely aware whenever things are doing very well, when I'm very comfortable, that I have to
mm,
watch myself a little bit more. And what you said, being humble means also being objective and honest with yourself.
yes,
So you look at yourself and you understand, what are you doing? What did you do? If something goes wrong, don't start blaming other people. You do an introspective and say, wait, what did I do? Walk back,
mhm,
and check, is there sin involved? Is it complacency involved? Is it incompetence involved? And then that that sort of helps me a lot in terms of understanding the situation, because I think, a lot of times we it's easier to go the Adam and Eve style. You keep pointing fingers
mhm.
and keep pointing fingers until you point the finger to a snake that doesn't have fingers. So uh the last thing that the snake probably was looking at, who we're gonna blame here.
Yeah,
But yeah. So talk to me about, we've been referencing Kenya for a while now. So talk to me about what that whole trip was about, and whatever you can share about
yeah. I mean, I
Kenya.
can share anything. Yeah. So, um, for me, Kenya. Wow, like this was my fourth trip to Kenya in the last 2 years.
Hmm.
And I've got one more trip this year, and then I'm hoping to do three next year, maybe four. We'll see. Just kind of praying about that one and trusting God. Um, but over the last 2 years, from my first trip to this trip, God's continued to connect me with men there that have um, very the same burden on their heart as I do
Mhm.
here, and through the conversations we've had, like the men in Kenya, I love them. Like they're they're no different than we are here in America or in the Philippines.
Mhm.
Like we're all struggling as men with the same things, right? Now, the circumstances that we live in may be different, and they definitely are. Like the some of the challenges that they face on a day-to-day basis aren't necessarily the same challenges that I face on a day-to-day basis, but the feelings and the questions and the doubts about who we are as men and as husbands and as fathers and as leaders is the same, right?
Mhm.
And so through these conversations, we started talking, and I was able to actually form a group of guys. So I have a cohort that I lead in the United States called Trailblazers, and it's really all about coming alongside men, building a community, encouraging, challenging, and equipping each other to become the men that God created us to be, to become the leaders that God created us to be. And it's been great so far. And through the conversations I had with these guys in Kenya, they're like, "Hey, let's just start a group." And I'm like, "All right, let's do it. See what happens. Get some guys." And I'm just like, "Okay, God, if this is what it's supposed to look like, we'll do it." And so we started a group 4 months ago with 5 guys, and this last October, what 3 weeks ago, I went there for 2 parts trip. So I work for a local nonprofit organization called Third Lens, and we do
Mhm.
I do their leadership development, work with their team, do some business development for them. But I took some of their board members over to see the projects that we're doing and let them really kind of see the impact that we're having in the lives of the people that are benefiting from these schools or children's homes that we've built or in the process of building over there, universities, all these different things. Um, but on the backside of this trip, it was about spending the weekend, 4 days, with these amazing men that I've been getting to know over the last 4 weeks, of them just unpacking who they are, building out strategies around what to do next based on that, right? Which is all built in. I wrote a book with a friend of mine, John O'Bray, called The Trail Markers, and it
Mhm.
helps. It helps men. It helps businesses walk out that those two big questions. Hey, who am I, and what do I do next? And so I got over there, and it was just this weekend where we got to go whitewater rafting, and we did some climbing, and we did some jumping off of uh, waterfalls into these beautiful pools of water, and just and play. That was probably the big one of the biggest things that I remember was not just the things that we did, but some of the playfulness that happened when we were together in some of these places, and the joy that was
How
happening.
yeah, how was it to, because I think that a lot of them might have been expecting to just sit down in lectures and talk about leadership and talk about, get a couple of the sermon on. How did some of them react to, okay guys, we're gonna jump out of waterfalls right now?
Well,
Was there like hesitation, or was it
oh
is it a
yeah. I mean, there was a whole level of fear because about half of them couldn't swim, right? And so, I got pictures of, and that's what I mean. Like the playfulness was like there was a couple guys that like tiptoed into the water and they got it up to their knees and they were even freaked out to sit out in it, right? Like the water's literally 2 feet deep, right? And the guy's five and a half, 5, 6 feet tall, five, 5'11", 5'12", 5'10", 5'11", something like that. And but then they're just splashing each other like kids, right?
Mhm.
And as men, like we're so wrapped up in, hey, I got to work hard and pay the bills, and you know, I put the roof over your head, and I make
Yeah.
sure we go to school, and that's real. And in Kenya, it's probably more real than it is here in America, right? Because sometimes some of
Mhm.
those guys, it's like, hey, if I don't work and I don't do this, like there's
They
no
don't
food,
eat.
there's no roof,
Mhm.
they don't eat. Yeah, that's real. That is very very real. But at the same time, when they were able to step into this place with a bunch of other guys and feel safe that they could let their guard down and play with each other. And that sounds horrible, but play together.
Oh, click that.
Yeah, please. But be able to play in the water, splashing each other, laughing, making jokes. we had this thing that we all started saying when we were jumping off this cliff. Not everybody jumped off the cliff, but most of us did. If we die, we die. But if we live, we will live. And then we would jump off this cliff. And there's actually, I don't remember where it is. It's in the Bible. It's a verse. Um, but it was so true. Like we were living life. We were
Mhm.
being the men that we were created to be. And in that moment, like when I came back, I was 100% like my cup was overflowing because
Mhm.
I just got this chance to have fun with a group of guys in Africa. It's kind of, I mean, and we're going for a hike through this jungle area that's got, there's elephants. I never saw them, but you saw, there were big piles of what, and you can see where they ripped through the jungle.
Evidence that they were
There was,
there.
yeah, there was evidence that they were there, right? And so, and they told us like, hey guys, look, the elephants that wander through here are not like they're not nice.
Mhm.
They don't know humans, and so they're going to be skittish. But if they see you, they may freak out too, and you don't want to get run over
Mhm.
by an elephant. Um, and so it was just amazing the whole weekend seeing them step into places that they were scared and then grow in confidence because they knew they had a group of brothers, a band of brothers around them to do this with. I saw them play like children, like all of us did. Um, and just that refills a man's spirit, right? There was a level of
Mhm.
adventure to it. Um, and I think that's one of the reasons that Africa really speaks to me. It just really speaks to the man's the adventurous and the dangerousness of that's inside of our hearts, right? Um, and so all of that stuff that weekend, and then to top it all off, like as we're driving to these places, the guys are putting worship music on, and half the time I didn't understand the conversation because they're all speaking Swahili, and I'm the only one who doesn't speak Swahili yet.
Mhm.
I'm working on it. Um, But we'd all just start worshiping and singing in the car, just praising, lifting up God's name, right? And that just fills us up even more. That Sunday, we all went to church together, and that was amazing. We got to praise and worship some more, listen to an amazing sermon, and then on the backside of that trip, I got introduced to four new guys, um, and I also met some guys. Like I was driving in, I was catching my Uber to the airport on Sunday as I was flying home, and I got talking to this guy Bonnie, and just kind of learning about him and his family, and in 2020 how he lost his job and now he's an Uber driver, and he's like, man, I think I want to open my own safari company, and I just kind of walked him through this simple idea of how to kind of create a strategy, right,
Mhm.
and kind of step into that little small steps to grow his business, and you could see the hopelessness that he had kind of start going away, like him believing in himself because another man believed in his ability.
Yeah. And it's super
He's
important.
joining
And
the group too.
that's good. That's good. It's super important. Here in the Philippines, we don't have as much as executive coaches. It's not something very, very common. I think that the first time that I sort of started understanding what the concept was when we first met like 3 4 years ago. And I was thinking, I kept thinking, okay, what is the role of an executive coach? And I think that one of the roles of an executive coach or somebody that does coaching or helps is somebody that has like that view outside of the whole turmoil that people are experiencing. You
Mhm.
can come in, look from afar, and say, okay, I see where everything is entangled. So let me just go there. So that person, that Uber driver, for example, he had a business idea, he had a potential vision that he had, but because he was also so in the midst of it all, he could not see
Mhm.
how to organize things. And you coming in and just, hey, I see what you're trying to do. How about this, and this? And sometimes it's very simple for us to be able to show those simple steps because it could be an industry standard step, but
Mhm.
for that person, so walk through me, walk me through some of your coaching philosophies and what it's all about, especially the trail marker and the trailblazer groups. What could some of the men that are in the audience right now, if they're interested in sort of taking a peek
Mm.
into what this, because you're unique in this space. Okay, you're unique in this space. First and foremost, um, because it's exclusively for men. That's the number one. And the second one is you're explicit in your with your faith.
Mhm.
So we'd have like tons of executive coaches that they may very good Christians, but they try to, nothing against it, but they're not as explicit in their with their faith. So tell me something was what somebody would expect to be a member of the Trailblazers group, or to any other group that you have. Hopefully in the Philippines in the future you'd have
Yeah,
one
no,
as well.
definitely in the Philippines. I need to go. My wife wants to come to your beach, so she's made it
Wow.
very clear. So just let me know when. You know, it's on my short list. We made it. We actually had a. We were sitting around the other day, and we're like, she was like, "Hey, I'd really like to make a list of the things that we think we want. You know, stuff around the house and things like that." And there were like two things on that list, and I said, "We need to make a list of where we want to go." Bro, that list was like 20 long of countries and states, and just I'm like, I'm in. Like, let's go. I am ready. So Philippines is on my list to come see you. But yeah, it's funny. You know, about a year ago, my executive coach. So yeah, guys, like I have a coach, and I have had him for 6 years.
Hmm.
Best thing I've ever done in my life, honest to God. I mean, other than some counseling, which I still have. My counselor is still on speed dial because there's still days I just need to talk to somebody else that's my coach, other
Hmm.
than my coach. But it's intentional conversations and accountability. That's all I bring, right? I try to bring great questions that are going to make you think about what's going on in your life a little bit differently, right? Because you're right.
Hmm.
When you are so in the weeds of it, you can't see the rest of it. You can't
Hmm.
see the forest for the trees.
Yeah.
Um, and so that's what I like to do. I just want to get to know you. I want to talk to you. I want to ask you questions, and hopefully those questions lead to you thinking and you having those aha moments. It's not me coming in and going, "Hey, here are the three things you need to do," because I don't know what you need to do.
Hmm.
You do, um, but it's not even about clarity. It's really about trust. Do you trust in yourself, and do you trust in God? Do you trust God? Put what God? Do you trust in the fact that that's what God put on your heart to do? Um, So you asked me like four questions all combined into one there, Jonathan. So
Yeah, no worries.
yeah, so I
And
mean,
it's true. It's true that trust is difficult for us to be able to there's a lot of people who trust in God in such a way that they become complacent in what
mhm,
their responsibilities are.
oof,
Be that because they don't think that they're equipped and they're waiting for a miracle to happen, or and then you have the other side of the coin where people like have God on speed dial, but he's the last number in the speed dial.
mhm,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is other people's numbers. Then God is like your number nine before you can get to him. Um, how do you balance that? Uh,
mm.
What 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 would be your advice for somebody that is able to trust God and also to look into themselves and have confidence uh, in executing God's plan for their
So
lives?
so there's a verse that is it's almost like my life verse, but it's just another one of my favorites. It's
Mhm.
Isaiah 26:3. It says, um, "You Lord give perfect peace to those whose minds are steadfast because they have faith in you." All right.
Mhm.
Now, what's funny is it says God gives us peace
Mhm.
for whose minds are steadfast. In other words, I have to play an action. I have to do something because I have faith in you. So I also have to have faith. So
Mhm.
I have a responsibility to do something, but I also have to have the faith that God's going to take care of it, right? And what that means is it's in that uncomfortable space in between is where we find true peace.
Mhm.
Um, because if I live in a place where God is not omnipotent, but
Omniscient.
the sovereignty of God, right? We
Okay.
know that if
Mhm.
I just stay in that place, God's going to take care of everything. I don't have to do nothing. What do you become? Complacent, restless, unhappy,
Mhm.
right? And
I
if you're on
was
the other side, which is, hey, it's all about me and my steadfast mind, what do you become? Exhausted, tired, restless,
mhm,
because you're not resting. But
correct.
when you get in the space in between both of those of, hey, the sovereignty of God is going to I trust in the sovereignty of God, but I also know that I have a responsibility. In that space in between, in that rub, that uncomfortable place in the middle, is where we find peace. And for me,
Mhm,
that makes complete sense, especially because I always think about, hey, we grow as human beings, not in the easy spaces, but we grow in the rub. We grow in the hard places. We grow in the pruning and the getting better. We grow. When I ask somebody about the biggest lesson they learned, or the best thing that's ever happened to them, half the time I get told a story about some horrible thing that happened in their life, because that's the thing that changed them.
yeah.
I don't get, man, I won $1 million. Like, I get, hey, I won $1 million, but then I lost it all. And what did I learn? Man, I'm a better person because I lost it all. Not because you won it, but because you lost it. You learned something. You became better. You grew. Um,
Do you think that do you think that in general, uh, in society as well as in the church at the moment, that we are losing that appreciation for living in the rub, right?
oh,
Um, that
we're
that that we're trying to, as technology improves, as quality of life improves, um, we are so comfortable and so spoiled to a certain extent that we don't want to feel pressured. We don't want to be learn from challenges. We don't want to learn from those type of things. Do you see that as something that is on the rise? Is it something that is coming to a conclusion, or what do you think?
we were created to want that,
Mm,
right? 100%.
mm,
We were created to live in Eden. Eden was the perfect balance, right? 100%. Did Adam have a job? Absolutely, he did.
mm,
God created Adam and Eve and said, hey, man, like, you guys rule over, which means you had some work, right? You had a responsibility. It doesn't mean it wasn't so, it doesn't mean, yes, I mean, we have this weird picture that's been painted over the years of the lion and the lamb sleeping together in this peaceful little place. Well, guess what? The lion back then was still a carnivore. It wasn't eating grass. It may lay down with the lamb, but it was going to eat that lamb eventually. Like, that's just real. Like, the lion wasn't created to be a vegetarian.
mm,
And so, just because God was able to create this space that they were able to find peace, they also knew there was a purpose in their life, right? Like,
mhm.
the lamb eventually knew that it was going to become. I mean, I love the fact that you referred to Lion King, the circle of life.
Yeah.
Like, hey, guess what? Yes, we eat the kudu, we eat those antelopes, Simba, but eventually we die and we become the grass. And guess what? The antelope eat us. Like, nothing's changed. Like, that's the cycle of life that God created back in the beginning of time. When he said, "Let there be light," and I got a buddy of mine who would tell you he didn't say it that loud. I always pick on him because he's old. Um,
Um, no,
yeah,
let me ask you this question. So for the men that are currently listening, who
mhm.
probably feel stuck, or like they're not living up to their full potential, what is one piece of advice that you can give them to start making a change? So if what is that first step that you'd give them?
Exercise.
Exercise.
Mhm.
That was quick. Okay.
It's the one thing. It is the one thing that you can do that will have an impact on every area of your life.
So this is your Jordan Peterson says make up your bed. So yours is exercise.
Mhm. I mean, I make my
Okay.
bed every morning. Like,
Yeah.
I don't like
But
a messy bed, but exercise is it 100%. I mean, and it doesn't have. Here's the thing. It doesn't have to be, hey, I'm going to go be Arnold Schwarzenegger and lift 450 pounds over my head, right? Go for a walk.
Mhm.
Get up, go for a 1 2 mile walk. Whatever you're able to do, go do that.
Mhm.
And when that becomes easy, walk a little bit further to where it's hard again. And as you start doing that, you're going to see the wins. You're going to build the confidence. Oh, hey, you know what? I can walk 2 miles. I can walk 3 miles. Oh, hey, you know what? Maybe I should go out and do some push ups. It's the one thing that we can do that's mentally, physically, and spiritually challenging to us, but also gives you results that you can feel and see. And that builds your confidence to go, hey, you know what? I got what it takes.
Yeah.
I hate it when I hear guys go, well, I just don't like to exercise. So, okay. So let me just ask you a question. So when you're old and you're laying in your bed, you're going to be okay with your son-in-law or your kid coming and wiping your butt because you're so sick you can't take care of yourself? Is that what you want? You want to know that you don't care about them enough to take care of you. I heard Andy Stanley say this in a message. He's like, the reason I exercise is because I'm thinking about my family.
Mhm.
I want to be in the best health I can be in so that my family doesn't have to take care of me. Like, man, like it is literally the one thing you can do that's going to make an impact on every area of your life.
Yeah.
Because you get quiet when you working out or going for a walk, especially if you leave your phone. Like if you can leave your phone
Mhm.
sitting on your desk and go for a walk for an hour, guess what? You're going to think about things. You're going to dream. You're going to experience God because you're going to look around and see this amazing world. You're going to hear things that you didn't hear before. You'll hear the baby cry or the baby laugh wherever you're walking. Like you're going to see all that stuff.
Yeah. Um, we work with a lot of your videos, with your content, and we get some a free ride for everything. In my business, sometimes in the work that I do, we sometimes there's a long stretch, like 2 3 weeks, where we're we're really grinding a lot. So we're doing a lot of the manual work, and we're working. And then I started noticing that my body was sort of not breaking down, but sort of squeaking. You have a sciatica appear all of a sudden because you've been sleeping the same position for 3 weeks. And I was thinking a lot about what you were saying. And I said, let me get the treadmill. I have the treadmill right next to my chair right now. So that means that whenever I'm working on something, I'm QAing videos or doing anything, or waiting for you on a meeting, for example, I'll probably be walking because it might take too long for me to go out sometimes in the
Mhm.
middle of the night because that's the time I work, and that might not be safe. But I have to make a change. I have to do something. And it's true. It's 100% true that making that decision to move
Mhm.
physically will help you move. I'm sleeping much better now.
Mhm.
I was able to sleep longer hours because I'm starting to get tired. I took out all of the curtains from my office so that I could get some sunlight while I was sleeping. So I'm learning
Mhm.
how to sleep during sunlight. So yeah, I think that you're spot on that. That um we sometimes we try to move spiritually, we try to move mentally, have our cognitive cognitive side work
Mhm.
and move. So we're trying to move the spirit and the mind and the soul, right? Keep on trying to do that, but we keep forgetting the body needs to
Mhm.
come with it. And unfortunately, the body is sort of our anchor, or anchor point. If the body is moving slowly, how do we expect our mental health and our spiritual
Mhm.
health to move accordingly? So that's an amazing insight. um we are we are men that have very high potential, and that's why we are where we're at. And we're at the position, for example, I would, and discipline is important, right? And I believe that you would attribute a lot of the things that you've accomplished because of the discipline that you got in the Marine Corps, being a chef. So those are two those are two professions where you can have certain level of creativity, but you have to follow very specific rules.
Mhm.
And you know, we're like cooking, I can do a mean omelet, perhaps I'll cook when you come here, but even omelets have rules,
Mhm.
right? And so how have you been able to incorporate it's because it's being the marine, being in the marines, being a chef, and then being a faculty member. um, how do you how do you see what contributions each of those professions and line of work that we're doing has contributed to your your coaching method, and what you're doing with these
Mm.
men?
I mean, for me, when I think back as a chef, I always try to remember what are the things that I loved about being a chef, right? I mean, I love cooking. I'm good at it. At least I think I am. But I love it. Like I'm passionate about it. And it's something that's always come easy to me. Um, which is really weird. Like I probably, I honestly, I probably flipped my first omelet at 10 years old.
Mm,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was fried bologna and American cheese because that's all I really understood. Um, but I was able to make a pretty omelet, and it wasn't very brown because in culinary school you would get judged, like you would get a bad grade if your egg was brown.
Hmm.
That meant it was burnt or overcooked. But the parts that I loved about my job as a chef was the mentoring of the young men that would come in and say, "Hey, I want to be a chef like you."
Hmm.
And so, for me, when I started looking back and thinking about that, it was, in the future and stepping into coaching, and I started going, okay, hey, what are my life experiences, the things that I've done, the things that I've learned? Where have been the things that I loved about those moments, right? What are those things? And that's what I do when I work with guys, and I or work with anybody. When I work with them, um, really kind of unpacking who they are. I start with those things. Like we got to remember, once again, we got to go back and remember what were those things, those moments. And for me, that was always a key moment, like something I just absolutely loved. Nothing made me more proud to see a young man go, "All right, chef, like I've been here for a while. I love working for you." And I'm like, "Hey, bro, I got a guy. I've already called him. He's expecting to come over and fill out an application, and he's probably going to hire you. As long as he likes you, he's going to hire you because it's time for your next step." So it was great. The Marine Corps for me, um, that was probably more the discipline side. I mean, there was
Hmm.
definitely there discipline in as a chef. Like you have to have everything in its place. There's a word we use is called mise en place. That meant everything had to be in its place and set up perfectly
Hmm.
and laid out. So there's a level of discipline in cooking, but there's also a lot of freedom and creativity in cooking. But for me, shit, when I worked as a chef and I was the guy actually in charge, it was the process of mentoring and coaching those guys or women that were coming to my kitchen. As the Marine, um, there was just something about the bond and the brotherhood, as well as the level of discipline that we had. But even when I got out of the Marine Corps, I really wasn't a guy who was healthy and taking care of myself. I let myself go for many years. And then at the university, the project management stuff I did, and I was still in dining. I was not faculty, but I was in charge of the
Hmm.
operational side, and I did all the project management. And so it was this. What I loved about my job at the university, and what really played into this was my ability to interact and connect with young men that were kind of at the beginning of that journey. Right,
Hmm.
they're going, man, okay, I've moved out of my mom's house. I'm going to college. I'm learning a skill or a trade or whatever it is that they're learning. And but they're still asking the same question. Okay, what am I supposed to do? I still actually teach a class called the Prioritized Life, and it's based off the Trail Markers workbook.
Hmm.
And it helps students unpack who they are, why they're here, and build strategies. Um, and so,
the
yeah.
the I think the best type of work is there's work where you work with inanimate objects, or you output that are like just creative output like videos or content or anything like that, there is a happiness when you finish a project, right?
Mhm.
But when you work with people, and then example, my business by default, every single person that I have employed right now in my business, I expect them to leave me at a certain point,
Mm.
because they're going to outgrow their positions very quickly, especially people that start on the management path. They
Mhm.
start learning more about web development. They
You
start
better
learning
not
more.
let Glenda go anywhere.
Yeah, she's listening. So I have like a path for her, but and she left me.
Well,
So
I'm glad she's back.
Glenda left us because we were pouring so much knowledge into her, and she was doing so well, and she was performing very well. And then eventually, other people started noticing that,
Mhm.
and as they started noticing that, she was given an offer. So she was given an offer to be the head of another center, like another agency, but an actual brick and mortar agency. And she was supposed to be, she was actually for a couple of months, she was the, uh, what you call that? She was the sort of the head for the Philippine, for the company in the Philippines, for two companies actually, for the same owner.
Mhm.
And when she told us that, obviously we were hurt because we had invested so much to build up her knowledge, but we're extremely happy,
Mhm.
right, for her and
Mhm.
also for us, because for her to be an operations manager on our side, a project manager, operations manager, and then all of a sudden, be recognized and seen by other people that the skill set that you learned here at Indino Solutions, you are now able to become like a country director.
Mhm.
And we were extremely happy for her. And we even, we had regular calls with her, about how she was doing at the other company, if she had any challenges, if she needed help. um, One thing that I like is that she did come back to us,
Mhm.
and we're all so much happier that she's back. But I love the fact that she came back for us mostly because of the culture,
Mhm.
the culture that we had started here. And then she said, she did say you can check with her if it's true, but that she preferred me as a boss compared to the other company. And because one of the reasons was accountability.
Mhm.
If I make a mistake, I'll say it. It's my mistake. Okay, got it. If our contractor makes a mistake, we don't throw them under the bus. We own it up
Mhm.
because somebody QA'd it. I approved it. I said yes to
Mhm.
it. I gave the direction. So we take accountability. But a lot of other places, that's a problem. We
Mhm.
throw the numbered employee, we throw them under the bus. Or, for
Mhm.
example, you blame somebody else. And and that's why she's back. So I'm glad that she's back. And yeah, we're not letting go. But going back to the point is that it's amazing to see people grow, to
Mhm.
people reach the potential that you had envisioned them to be.
Right.
And it takes a little more time, like delayed gratification on that. But not only getting them to that point, but seeing the day by day growth as they take accountability for what they did. They be proactive about
Mhm.
something. They recognize that they made a mistake before you catch the mistake,
Mhm.
and then they are able to fix it and report the mistake.
Oh yeah. No.
Don't throw it under the rug and say, hey, I did a mistake here, this is how I fixed it. And in my heart, when I hear an employee say that to me, I say, oh, I'm so happy.
You did your
Because
job.
number one, they know that they made a mistake. They did not hide it, and they trusted me to tell me that there was a mistake that was made.
Yeah.
Because
No, 100%.
that's sometimes bosses, you can't tell them that you made a mistake because you might not know what might come afterwards. So yeah, so how is it going right now? Are you seeing these wins, the delayed gratification? Are you getting those? Are you um Are you seeing how people are being open to be coached, to change, to grow, and to become the man
Mhm.
that they're supposed to be?
Yeah, actually, I am. I'm seeing these men step into become the leaders they're called to be. They're creating. I just so I work with a lot of men, but I also do some work inside of organizations as well.
Hmm.
And I have a program called the Next Level Leader, which is all about investing in the leadership of the company.
Hmm.
Or those younger emerging leaders, and it's just what you're talking about. It's like, hey, um, how do we help them become the best version of themselves, whether they stay at the company or not? Like, it's not about that. When we have an open hand for our when we're talking about our employees, and we have an open hand policy that, hey, I want to invest in you, I want to grow you, I want you to become the best version of you, whether you stay or not. Like, it's
Hmm.
good, right? It's good. They're gonna, even if they leave, they're more than likely going to come back, or they're going to make sure that they tell their friends, hey, you need to go work for this guy, because he invested in me. He believed in who I wanted to become. Right. Um, we have a saying here. It's like, what is it? People would be like, well, hey, if I invest in him and he leaves, then the question is, well, what if you don't invest in him? He never grows and he stays, or she stays. Right. What
Yeah,
happens? Like, which employee do you want? Do you want the one that wants to grow and maybe even go somewhere? Or do you want the one that doesn't want to grow, that's just going to sit there?
yeah,
Like, I don't want that guy on my team. Like, I want someone who has dreams and goals, and I want to come alongside them.
yeah. Ambition
You
is
know,
important. Ambition is
What-
important.
it's
You
it's
have to
not
want
even.
something. I
Yeah.
mean, in the sense that you have to
Oh,
want
personally, yeah.
something.
Mhm.
Yeah, you have to have want something.
And a paycheck's
It,
not that answer. Like, a bigger
correct,
paycheck is not the answer.
correct, correct. So you have to be able to want to learn. You have, and that's um and that's what, during your hiring process, that's sort of the thing that I look for. So I
Hmm.
can be a skeleton of a resume, right? Nothing in it. But then when you talk to the person, you sense and you can see that they want to do something, they want to learn something, they want to grow. I remember one of my first hires when I first started the company. One of my first hires in management was a lady that was basically sort of a caretaker, almost like a janitor.
Hmm.
And all she was supposed to is clock in people, clock them out. But she was very open to learn, and she was
Hmm.
older than me. She was super older. So I kept throwing, you know, throwing bones at her. I say, hey,
Hmm.
you want to try this? You want to try generating this report and just send it, the raw file, to me? And she would do it, and she would learn a little bit about Excel. And as she sent over those reports, she was even trying to put colors in the Excel. And all over, don't need to do that, but just send it. But she would try to do something, try to do something, and we kept giving things. And then I said, you know what? You know enough that I can put you as a team lead. And then obviously her pay increased, and everybody in the company was like weirded out because, is she a team lead now? She used to greet us at the door. No, she knows everything, and she
Hmm.
and then we introduced her to client communication, and she was able to communicate with the client. And it came to a point, towards the end of our relationship, she became a operations manager. She was dealing with 47 employees and
Hmm.
dealing with this huge chunk of my business by
Hmm.
herself, and
Yeah.
doing everything from initial hire training to offboarding, payroll, and everything. And uh every time that I remember that, even though she's no longer with us, it just brings a smile to my face. And
Hmm.
that this is what I want, to
Hmm.
be able to do, as a business owner. I don't want to just to get the bottom line, the money. I don't want to just have robots, or AI agents working for me.
Hmm.
I want to see people grow. I want to see
Hmm.
people be successful. I want to see people happy about themselves,
Hmm.
as they're coached, as they are led,
Yeah.
that they want to have that experience. So, hey,
Yeah.
you know what? If I remember myself 6 months ago, 1 year ago, when I first entered the company, comparing to what I know and what I can do right now, it's
Hmm.
incredible. Anyway, and having clients like yourself where you throw at us from video editing to marketing to all of a sudden is web design, all of a sudden you have an idea, all of that, all of that is we look at things, okay, we can look at how we can do that, and then we have a meeting, internal meeting, and say, okay, what is this about? And then I come to them and say, this is what he's looking for, this is what he wants, this is how we should sometimes guide you. Okay, we need to move
Yes.
like this, push back. Sometimes I do tell them, hey, I saw the WhatsApp message, push back right now, push back, because that cannot be done, or this is a bad idea, and they'll try to push back. And that sort of baby steps that we try to teach them. And having clients like yourself is amazing blessing, Ulu. It's an amazing blessing because not only does my team learn every day uh, through the tasks that you give us, but also from the content. I'd advise everybody to to like, share, and go to all of the social platforms that William is, and that we are pushing content for you, and really look in and listen, because there I have agents, people who do QA, for example, for some of
Hmm.
the videos, just QA. So they are not involved in anything else. All their job is to look for glitches, look
Hmm.
for mis typos. Just that's all that they do. And I hear back from like their partners, like their wives or their husbands or their boyfriends, and say, such and such said, he gave me an advice because he heard from William that this is, and I said, okay, that's very good. That's very good, because that's one way that I'm super happy to have this you part of our business, is that my entire company sees what the content is. And that brings me to one of our closing questions, which is, what's next for you? What
Oof.
do you have brewing right now that we should watch out for? Most likely by the time that this goes live, it's going to be there. So we'll put all the links there. So do you have any projects, initiatives, or anything that you'd like to bring attention and prayers to?
Yeah, no.
So,
Well, maybe it's Trailblazer Philippines,
mm,
maybe
absolutely.
so, you never, I mean, I'm always game, we just got to figure out what that looks like, and put that together. Um, yeah, I mean, that's the biggest thing, at the beginning of this year, October last year, I left my job at the university and went full time into this. I've been coaching now part time for almost 5 years.
Mm-hmm,
In October, my wife and I made the decision that, hey, this is God's kind of created the right opportunity, the right moment for us to do this full time. And in that process, she spoke this over me that I was going to have an impact of over 500 men just going through Trailblazers. And so I'm just trying to lean into that and understand what that looks like. We still have that goal. And, you know, I believe that may be in through Trailblazers, but it may just be through the impact that I have in men.
mm-hmm,
Um, there may be 500. I believe that God's kind of put this. Hey, what does it look like for William to impact a million men in this world, right? And I hope that that day comes. But the big things I have going on right now are really that the Trailblazer cohort, that group is my primary focus. Well, yeah, it's my probably my primary one.
mm-hmm,
Um, I think it's impactful. It's for the young and up and coming and the emerging leader. Um, and it's about building that community. Kenya is. I'll be going back to Kenya in October, so I'll be. I'll start raising money for that. That is the ministry side of my business. So what I do outside of the country is usually all ministry and give.
mm-hmm,
So I have to raise money to support that, to help take care of and provide things that the guys need in Kenya and maybe even the Philippines. Whether it's printing out copies of the Trail Markers book or coordinating events for me to do and getting myself there so I can spend time with them one to one and really kind of have that those fun weekends together.
mm-hmm,
Um, and then this, the next big thing in my business is going to be this next level leader program, which is how is and what I'm asking business owners is, hey, how are you developing or what are you doing to develop the people on your team, right? Like you're probably great at spending time with them how to and teaching them how to do the Excel spreadsheets and how to do the widgets that you make, whatever it is that you guys do on a day-to-day basis, you're probably great at teaching them how to do that. If not, you wouldn't be in business, right?
Hmm.
But what are you doing to invest in the soft skills that your team needs? How to be an empathetic leader, how to understand who you are as a leader so that you can lead yourself and then ultimately lead your team better. Um, how do you communicate and hone the skill of communication inside your team? Those are the soft skills that we need as people and as leaders in organizations, no matter who you are, man, woman, inside an organization. Those are the things we need. And so that's the other big program that I'm really starting to work on right now. I'm doing that currently in two different organizations, and it's just great. It's a program that Five Capitals, a group I work through, created, and I've seen it grow exponentially through them. And so I just really took the time to learn it and understand it, watch all the videos, and go through all the worksheets. And now, I think I'm even working with our team there, Indino, with Glenda and those guys, going, "Hey, let's build out a site on my page that kind of promotes it a little bit because I believe in that." And I
Hmm.
think that's a great place to develop, um, continue to develop your leaders. Yeah, do I love coaching men? Absolutely, but I also have bills to pay and things to do, and
Yeah,
my business supports my ministry in all of this. So that's the big things for me. Probably some travel in the future. Hopefully the Philippines, definitely back to Africa, um,
yeah. Get
and
a
then
ticket that shoots straight from Kenya, just goes to Asia afterwards,
yeah.
right?
How far of a trip is that, man? How far of a flight is that? I don't
I
know.
don't know. Just take the first step, right?
The first step.
We just
First
work.
step is
Kenya's the first step.
first step is let's start a group. So just
Yep.
so you guys listening, those groups. The way we start is the vision I have is that we'll connect, we'll start a group. It'll run for 4 months, and then I'll go spend time with them, and then we'll start the second group, and it'll be a combination of both groups at that point because
Hmm.
the curriculum stays the same, right? It's all
Yep.
about accountability, intentional conversations, and building community. Um, because when we go through the trail markers, it's about how do we create a process that allows us to constantly go back and go, hey, do I have the right lens in? Is it clean enough? How do I take my glasses and polish up that lens so it's a little clear, right? So am I living out my purpose? Am I living out who I'm supposed to be serving? Is my strategy moving me forward?
Hmm.
And if it is, great. If it's not, let's make some adjustments. Who are the people on my team? Are the people around me? And ultimately, am I being the person that I need to be for those people? And how am I communicating and telling that story to them? How am I communicating, sharing my faith with them, or whatever it is, in the space that you're in? And so
Perfect.
it is, man.
Perfect.
I hope so. If it
Perfect.
doesn't work, then we'll try something else at the beginning of the year.
It will definitely work. So it definitely work. It has to work, and we'll make it work. That is our potential, right? That is our potential. So, William, I'm super thankful for the time that you've invested in joining the podcast, and we'll all be praying for you. And we believe in the program. I have like ideas of people that we might be able to tap very 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 soon,
Okay.
um, probably even in Nigeria. So we have a couple of things that I'm brewing on my end as well, and it'd be lovely to to push them your way. So, any closing remarks or anything that you'd like to give the listeners with?
Mm.
Leave the listeners with?
Hey guys, wow. Closing remarks. Hey, thank you, Jonathan, for inviting me on and letting me just kind of share my story. Eh, I'm really humbled that I get an opportunity to do this, and so I'm grateful for that. But you know, something was said to me, was shared with me when I was in Africa, and it's just really kind of resonating with me. It's what I'm praying about a lot right now, and it was how do I? And I asked somebody that I trusted and somebody I met. I was like, how do I really discern God's voice?
Mm,
And she started with the first thing, which was, hey, prayer and fasting. So I encourage you, take the time to get quiet, prayer and fasting. But then she challenged me with these two things. And she goes, hey, who are the people that have influence in your life? And she looked at me, she goes, "William, you're called to be set apart. So who are the people that you're letting have influence in your life? And
Mm,
then what are the things that you're letting have influence in your life? Because those two things will also keep you from hearing from God.
mm,
And that may hurt. You may look at relationships and be like, man, like that guy's a good guy. You
mhm,
know, he's not a bad person, but there may be something there that's keeping you from hearing what God's got for you. And so it just really challenged me. And I want to challenge you, those who are listening to this, is, you know, do a quick audit and check and go, okay, hey, who am I letting have influence in my life? Right.
yeah,
And what am I letting having influence in my life? And you may need to root those things out so that you can hear from God what he has for you, and have those moments with him when you go for your walk
yeah,
or you go for a run or whatever, right?
yeah,
But that's the big thing. Take that to the bank.
yeah. Who's on your ear? That's a hard truth that once you actually look at it, it's a
Hmm.
hard truth. I learned that in business. I learned that who's giving you advice.
Hmm.
William, once again, thank you so much, and I hope to have you here soon and get some updates from your next trip from Kenya or the Philippines.
Yeah, definitely. That sounds great.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you.